Hi, welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. Today we're going to be using white charcoal and white Prismacolor on black paper. We're going to use construction paper, but you can use black illustration board, mat board, any kind of board that is very dark.
So as we're doing chiaroscuro, as an artist, you have to concentrate on both the light and the dark side. Normally, we're used to drawing all the shadows. But here, when we're doing dark, all those darks are already done for you. So you've got to concentrate on the light side, which makes it takes a little bit of a mind shift. And so as we go in, hopefully your mind will make that shift and you'll start looking at all the lights rather than the shadows. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to start out doing some sketching with our white charcoal. Because our white charcoal is erasable, whereas the Prismacolor isn't so erasable, but the Prismacolor is more opaque. So for the really highlights, we're going to use the Prismacolor, and for some of those mid tones and we're going to use the charcoal. Okay. So I'm just going to set those aside. Have your kneaded eraser handy. And here goes. The first thing you want to do is establish where everything goes. So I'm going to just put a little edge up here at the top and say somewhere towards the middle, not smack dab in the middle, but just off to the right, just a little bit. It's where the curve of her hat goes. I'm just going to throw that in. Just say that's about where the curve of the hat goes. And about halfway down through our picture, our picture plane, is about where her chin is. So you can come down in, you can put just a little mark there and say, okay, there's the chin. Now you've kind of established the distance. If you go halfway down through that between the top and her chin, that's about where the curve of the hat goes. And it's right above her chin. So if you go in here and about halfway, you can use your fingers like calipers, go down about halfway, and you can just put a little curve. There's the curve of her hat. Now we've kind of established our distances and everything. If you go about halfway between the curve of the hat, the brim of the hat, and the top of the hat, about halfway through there, that's about where the brim starts. So you can kind of come in, start that brim. It's going to go almost all the way over. Probably comes up and curves like this. Her eyes are just below the brim. And this isn't exact. We will have to change this a little bit. Just below the brim of where the brim and the crown of the hat meet, if you come straight down, that's about where the curve of the nose goes. That bridge of the nose. And it's going to come out and almost be, not quite, but almost halfway between there. Almost. You can come up and you can make the tip of the nose. And don't draw lines. We're just drawing the shapes of the light. Her lips are very dark. You can leave those out. If you wanted to, you could put a little bit of the tooth in there. Just a little dot for tooth right below that. And if it's not in the right place, we can always change it. We can always move it. There's her chin. So any of that can be easily changed. I'm also going to kind of go in and put in the neck. So you kind of come back in here. Somewhere about right in there is a neck. The shoulder is kind of gone until it picks it up about right under the chin. You got a little bit of light, and it just curves right there. And you just drop that down. Now that little bit that we've done is the gist of it. If you wanted to, you could put in a little bit more light here and there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the side of my pencil and just do a little bit of, I guess you'd call it shading, but because we're not doing the shadows, we're doing the light, maybe we'll call it lighting. I don't know, we need a better term than shading for when you're doing chiaroscuro. A lot of this other stuff, you can still see that, but we're going to do that with our cotton swab because it's so light and so thin. She's got a dress on that her shoulder kind of comes around here. You can't even see this other side. So just leave it out. If you can't see it, leave it out. I'm just doing the lightest areas I see. I'm not even concerned about a lot of the detail. Just going to throw in some of those really light areas. And you can start wherever you want to start. I started from the shoulder and moving my way up, but you can go wherever you want to. For the eyes, you just need like a little dot. So I'm gonna try to get the bridge of the nose, the top part of the nose in there. Here's a little bit of the nostril that comes down there. Just draw the light areas and leave everything else out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this hat. I'm just going to shade it, light it, whatever we're talking about here. Comes down. I can see where it kind of tucks under her chin right there. Kind of very light, soft, kind of fuzzy. It's out of focus. And it's not a big deal if the stripes aren't exactly in the right place. Nobody cares. Make sure that the nose, the eyes, the mouth, they're in the right place. But the hat stripes, nobody cares about. Now I'm just going to clean up everything. Just take my kneaded eraser and I can clean up things, little edges, little sketchy places that I think, I'm going to start blending with my cotton swab too. This is just going to soften some of those edges. I'm going to just, as I soften some of those edges, I know that I've got to come back into it and increase those highlights. I can manipulate this charcoal very easily. Get some of those really light tones. And again, it takes a little bit of a mind shift. You got to be thinking light instead of dark. And if it's a little frustrating for you, that's normal. But just persevere with it, and all of a sudden your mind will make that shift, and you'll go, oh, I get it. Now, the most important thing is probably the face. So if you want to spend a little extra time on the face to get it right, everything else can kind of fall into place. So the very lightest areas, now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to use my Prismacolor to get some of those really light areas. Make those pop. So blend out your charcoal, and again, you could just use charcoal if you wanted to, but that Prismacolor is really going to make things pop. So I'm going to take my Prismacolor, and the tip of her nose and the bridge of her nose right there has a little bit of extra light on it. So I'm just going to use that Prismacolor in there. Just make that pop. That little bit of contrast. Tip of her nose. Right there. And pressure here for your Prismacolor. There's this little bit that's under her eye right there. Just throw that in. And you don't have to press hard at all with the Prismacolor. Sometimes the Prisma is a little powerful. And so there are times when I think, oh, that's too much in there, even though I didn't hardly press it at all. And you just take a little bit out. You can go over it with your charcoal. You can blend it. The Prismacolor is going to stay there. So even if you go in there and you want to blend a little bit with your charcoal, you can blend it, but that Prismacolor is going to stay there. It's not gonna move on you. Her eye, I can barely see her eye. There's a little shine right there. And a little bit of light on the iris itself. And that's really it for the eye. There's not much there. And I may want to do a little bit of this hat. Again, you can do that with your charcoal if you want, because that's very light. I'm going to leave out her eyelashes. A little bit of charcoal in there. Blend that. Now I'm going to go into the other eye. Now, some of this is really very light, so I may want to do first with my charcoal and then go over the rest of it with Prismacolor. Blend that. And the more you layer your charcoal on there, the easier it's going to be to blend and the smoother it gets. So if you like things smooth, this is a great way to get them nice and smooth. Little eraser around the nostril. Here's my Prismacolor around the eye. Just a little bit around the eye that's really bright. The rest of it, the charcoal can take care of. Then like the eyelashes, things like that, you can go in with your kneaded eraser. Here's your eyelashes. Voila, there you have it.
Those eyes, let me zoom into those. They're just really just spots of light. You have a really fairly light highlight right there. The rest of it's just a little curve, and then you just leave the rest of it out. Also, when we get to that point, we're almost finished, you're going to look back on it and go, oh, that's not as light as I thought it was. So you have to kind of go back into your highlights. That's common. Just a light touch. And a lot of that I may have to go back into. It is the way it is. A little charcoal on the cheek. She has a little bit of light that you can see from her lip. Just a little bit, kind of defines that upper lip. Right in there somewhere. And a highlight right across her chin. Right there. The rest of that can be done with charcoal. Some reflected light up on her chin right there too. Just a little. You just blend that in, soften it all up. Eventually, that cotton swab is going to get loaded with charcoal. We can manipulate that throughout the hat, other areas. And you can just leave the charcoal too, just like the Prismacolor's left. You don't have to blend it all. So once you get the face so it's about the way you want it, everything else is going to just kind of come together for you. The rest of that head is just totally lost. There is a little tiny bit, like you can see, a little bit of her ear right there. If you come straight over, I'm going to just put that in with my cotton swab because you can just barely see a little bit of that. And there's some hair that comes down in there. If I can get enough of that charcoal out on there, I'm going to pick it up from somewhere else, see if I can get it.
Maybe I can pick it off of here. Bring it up into here. There it goes. Just a little bit. There's an earring that comes around there. That hair, I can see little. I'm just going to take my kneaded eraser, just go into it, pull out some little striations. There you've got your hair. It's pretty easy to do. All right in there. There's some more hair. Very light in the shadows over there. I'm going to use her shoulder as a place to pick up charcoal from. Right there. That's a lot of charcoal. So I'm going to just pick some of this up and pull it in elsewhere. Maybe a little down her hair. Off the shoulder. Pick up as much of this as I can. There's her hat as it comes around. I can see that kind of comes around here. I'm just going to use my cotton swab to pick that up. If I need more charcoal, just add some more charcoal to that. This is kind of like a little paint well. You can pull it out from there and you can take it anywhere you want to put it. There's some really soft tones that come down her back right here, and a little bit of where her dress kind of meets up. And throw that in with my cotton swab. Really light. I'm just taking my cotton swab now and just pulling some of this light from over here, putting it into the very dark, low-key values of this back. Just enough that you can see, oh, yeah, it's a back. I get it. It's almost like painting. I'm going to throw that necklace in there with got my kneaded eraser. I'm going to hit the shadow. A little shadow right there. The rest of that, because it's quite a big shine, I'm going to do with my Prismacolor. So just little dots. They're probably like a little diamond or something in there. Little hair that kind of comes up and around her neck too. I'm going to pull that out with my kneaded eraser. The back side of this hat is very light too, and I'm going to use that more of that charcoal here to get the back side of the hat. I'm just going to do little lines, leave some little darks out. You can come back in with your kneaded eraser and pull out those little edges, and you've got it. You didn't have to worry about too much of that texture. I use my Prismacolor to hit some of those highlights across the bridge of the hat, and maybe some of this that's down in there too. That'll be just about done. We're just kind of layering in that charcoal too. The more you layer in, the brighter it gets. But then you've also got some that you can use to soften other areas too. Little hair right there. And that is just about it. Clean anything up that you need to with your kneaded eraser. Add any more little highlights if you need to. Make sure you sign it. Good place for a signature is either right there by her shoulder or just behind her back there. Either place. You can put in as much detail here as you want to. And again, it's like anything else. You kind of decide how much time you have. Detail just takes more time. And if you're really, really liking the detail and liking how it looks, go for it. You can add your detail. And if you're all out of time, the hat is the least amount of your worries. You know, once you got the face done and everything's looking pretty good, the hat, you can fudge a little bit on that. Clean up a little bit here and there, and I think you got it. Thank you for drawing with me today. It's been very, very nice. Chiaroscuro is always kind of one of those things that you enjoy doing because it's very moody, very dramatic. The key here is that you've enjoyed it, enjoyed your time, that you learned something, and that hopefully it inspires you to continue on thank you again for drawing with me. Thanks for all your support. And I truly believe that art makes life better. There you have it. And I hope you have a lovely day.